ever seen a pond go from this to this? Well, let me tell you the story of Bob and his home in this pond. Once upon a time, there was a fish named Bob who lived quite happily in a pond on a farm with his algae neighbors. Bob ate the algae to his contentment, and the algae used the nutrients from Bob's poop to grow and thrive. Everyone was happy. This happy cycle between the algae and Bob is called the nitrogen cycle. One day, there was a torrential rainstorm that washed the fertilizers from the farm into the pond. All of a sudden, the algae had way more to eat than they were used to and began to overindulge. They grew, and pretty soon they covered the whole pond. Bob could no longer see the sun rays as he swam about his home. The plants he would swim around began to wilt, and Bob found it harder and harder to breathe. One by one, he watched his fish brothers float to the surface as more and more algae filled the pond. "What's going on?" Bob cried out. The happy nitrogen cycle was no longer balanced, and Bob was no longer happy. Not to be deterred, Bob rallied his fish companions, and together they started tirelessly eating away at the algae. They encountered other aquatic creatures like turtles and frogs to join their mission to restore balance. Word spread across the farm, and the farmers were more careful to keep runoff from going into the pond. The fish and the other pond dwellers gradually regained their health and happiness as the once choked pond transformed back into a thriving ecosystem. Bob swam through the now clear waters, the sunlight kissing his scales once again. The plants flourished, providing shelter and food for all the inhabitants. The nitrogen cycle, restored to its natural balance, once again brought harmony to the pond. And once again, Bob was happy.